Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about doing well as a junior. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how to do well as a solo junior developer when in a non-dev team and in charge of delivering a large internal project? Well, I will tell you how to do well, but I want you to understand something here a little bit as well. The expectations put on you when you are a junior level software developer and you're in a non-dev team can be a little bit of a difficult situation for you depending on the type of stakeholders that you have. Because it's actually funny because this is one of those, it's actually something I can relate to a lot. When I first started as a software developer, my absolute first job was very similar to this. It was not an internal project, but it was basically here's your first project. And in a sense, I had a lot of stakeholders who were they were not technical, and they put a lot of pressure on me very, very quickly and had a lot of expectations very, very quickly. And very little in terms of understanding of sort of what do you expect roughly from a junior software developer and what type of responsibilities do you give them. And the same thing can be said for you. So one of the things that is good to know here is that this is a situation where this can go better and it can go worse. And it's not necessarily if things you don't live up to expectations and so forth, you don't really, well, you don't have to put all of that on yourself, and that's very easy to do when you are a junior level developer starting on your first project. With that said, I'll tell you how to do as well as you can, and then, as I said, try to remember that you're actually in a state where you should ideally get mentorship and training or someone to sort of coach you here, but you can still do a decent job and don't kill yourself if things don't measure up to the expectations of the people who are asking you to do this. So with that said, first things first, make sure that you only use technologies that you feel comfortable with. Do not try to use something advanced, something that is like cool, or something that is considered to be best practice. I will go even as far as to say this, guys. If you were to, and this happens quite often actually, and it is the sustainable way for you. I hope that this spin is interesting to you, because I do a fair bit of interviews and take recruitments, and I work with a lot of different software developers, and I have over the years now, and some of them are people who have worked as freelancers or in different consultancies and different projects. And so when they come and they want to have a job in the sort of industries that I've usually been part of, which is more, mainstream, large-scale software development, corporate enterprise level stuff. I mean, I've worked in startups and agencies as well, but I've done it at the higher, the really high levels as well, and that's where I've been most of my time. A lot of their learnings or the things that they are doing and have been doing for years is not going to fly all that far in those environments, but they have been flying pretty well for them at the lower scales, because a lot of the projects that they have been dealing with are the sorts of projects where, well, they have this job, they need to deliver results, and they will do so to the best of their abilities. This is one of the reasons I try to coach my other coworkers who are a little bit, sometimes they are a little bit elitist, and they say, oh, this person doesn't know shit about anything, oh, how can they do this and use that library and not that library? And I kind of go, well, if they've been working, imagine this, if you take me as me, Frederick, if you asked me to run a hospital or take over a church or whatever, if I'm underqualified, or if I'm not, I don't know the best way of doing something, then the next best thing I can do is to do the thing that will net me the best results for the moment. That's sort of what you do if you think about it. That's what you do as a junior And I mean, it's what I still do. I mean, I don't know if the things that I'm building today that I think are so amazing, even though I have many years of experience, maybe in 10 years people are going to look at my code and go, that's absolute shit. And maybe they're going to be right. And maybe there's some guru out there who's going to just think that I'm useless if I go and interview for them. So your first priority should not be to try to figure out the best way of doing things. The best thing for you is to use the simplest method. Even if you have to basically do this thing that happens a lot. I mean, when I take over a second-hand code base from someone who does this, who doesn't have the skills, I feel very frustrated, of course, because the code is there, it's shit, or like it's not good, like the product is super unstable, etc., etc. But the reality is that you don't know any better at this point, so you have to do the best you can. And the most important thing, as I said, is to deliver the results. That's what it's about. And the simpler you can make your workflow, the easier you can make it for yourself to actually consistently meet the expectations. Because a lot, the people who are asking you to build things, at the end of the day, they don't care so much about what library you use or what tech you use, what framework you use. That's not important to them. What's important is that the features that they ask you to build are built and that they are working. And your goal is to achieve that. Now, the thing that usually happens in our industry, as I've said, is that you have this idea that there's a best way of doing things. And sure, there are better ways of doing things in many cases. But you cannot be a senior when you are a junior. So don't try to be a senior, because odds are that you're just going to complicate things for yourself. Try to, as I said, just focus on meeting the expectations of your stakeholders. So if that means, I don't know, using jQuery because you learned how to use jQuery, even though someone else would never use jQuery, then use jQuery. If it means using Angular or React, or if it's backend, like if it means using Rails or PHP, don't really think so much about what the community is saying. This is the way to do it, because the reality is that if you wanted to do the thing that the community was doing, then that would have been the same answer as I was saying. It would be the simplest thing for you. If you have the skills to actually do it, quote unquote, the right way, then you would do it by default. Usually, if you are truly informed. But the problems usually come, the real problems usually come when someone is trying to follow guidelines and principles that are set by the community, best practices, or how to do the right thing, and they take advice from someone who either is ignorant themselves or very advanced and have a lot of experience and can do this in a ready fashion, and then they try to, basically that's what happens. You try to learn this new thing on top of delivering the value, like the stuff that you're supposed to build on behalf of your customer or your stakeholders. That's the thing you should avoid. You should focus only on doing the things that are necessary to ship that software. That is how you make sure that you will succeed, because even if it means breaking all the rules, even if it means that someone else is going to come in and just ask you, like, what the hell, were you drunk when you did this? That is a better state for you to be in than to not be able to meet the expectations of whoever you are working for. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to do well as a junior software developer on a non-dev team, like you have no one else and it's just you on some project, do the thing I just told you. Use the simplest possible thing that you can possibly find in all circumstances, because don't pretend that you're a senior. Don't pretend like you know better. Don't feel bad because you're using bad practices or things like that. Try to do your best and understand that it's a little bit like an artist. Like when you're like being a kid as a child artist, your first stick figures, well, your mom and dad are probably going to put them, hopefully, on some refrigerator somewhere and say that was really nice. And then if you continue drawing for 20 years, you're going to look back at that thing and kind of go, yeah, that may have not been the best thing, right? But you started there and now you're much better. And that journey has to take time. And if you're in a situation where you're literally now not able to leverage a more experienced person or have someone around who can show you any better, then use the thing that's going to work. Because getting it to work, as I said, is more important to every single person who's going to use your system than that you used the magical combination of tools or libraries or frameworks and so forth. Just accept that this thing here that you're building right now, you're probably going to be embarrassed by all the choices that you made in a few years when you did this thing. But at the very least, you delivered it. And look at it as that old stick figure piece of like a drawing. It's where you started. It's not where you're going to be in the end, but it was the first attempt. And as long as it did the trick, just own it and move on. Have a great day.